David, it certainly made us work for that point. What's your thoughts on what you've seen from your side today?
I thought, in terms of goal scoring and chances created, we had more in the first half and ended up with 0. And that's the disappointing thing. The game should have been done and dusted at half time. We've completely dominated the game for 45 minutes again, but not took us chances. And then we've been made to pay because we can't defend a transition 3 times, if you include the penalty decision, which is disappointing because we worked on it. And that's ultimately what's cost us 2 points today. So, great character, great belief, 3 more goals, lots of positives in that sense. We've got to make sure we don't concede as sloppily as what we did. I thought the fans were magnificent. I thought they had the belief that the players showed. I thought we had unbelievable belief. It's a tough place to come. We know that. There'll be plenty of teams that come here. Obviously, Harrogate have improved since last year. You saw that last week. And to come from 3-1 down was testament to the lads' belief and character. And I have to say, it was nothing more than we deserved. We deserved more than a point. If you take off their penalty, I think their expected goals is like 0.5 or something ridiculous. Because we've limited them to so few sort of penalty box entries, if you like. But we've got to make sure that when that's the case, we do. We had that many players inside their box in the first half. We were actually getting in each other's way. We've hit the post. The keeper's pulled off a couple of good saves. We've not quite got it right. But there was enough in the first half where we've got to make sure that we come in at least 1 goal to the good, if not 2 or 3. So that was the disappointing thing, and then we didn't defend in the transitions. But on the flip side, like I said, the belief and character and the goals we scored were really good goals. So, and we should have had more. Cam's had a great chance from a free kick, and we've hit the post. We've had plenty of chances, but it didn't quite fall for us. But we take the point and we move on.
And speaking specifically on that save that their goalkeeper made, that's pretty much earned them a point, hasn't it? That was a stunning save.
Yeah, it was an unbelievable save. We should score. I think it was Cam that didn't quite time his header right, but on another day, the fact he's getting there and he's getting them chances is a real good thing. I thought he made a difference. I thought all the subs made a big difference when they come on. We just said that in there. Jamie and Justin and Cam and obviously even Henry at the end. They made a difference. They made a difference. They gave us that impetus. They gave us that belief. I'm not saying it was missing. Far from it. But they added to it, and that's what you want from your subs, and that's why we scored the goals at the end.
And you mentioned in your pre-press on Thursday that they're a side that are comfortable not having the ball. We had a lot of possession, and they're a side that sort of excel on the counter-attack. What do you think? If you could put a finger on one thing that...
Yeah, I think, like I said, we just get back on level terms, and we end up being a bit gung-ho straight away, suddenly before you know it's a penalty, which was. It was about the only thing you got right, but it was definitely a penalty. And it's like, you sort of end up back to square one, but you just worked hard to get back into it. And we sort of, even though it's our throwing, we're still sort of quite open. It's like, no, you don't need to be open at that point. And it's understanding, again, I've just said it in there, that understanding when to be quite open, when we're in good possession. So if Chaz does come back out and the lad doesn't read him, fine, then spring from that. But up until that moment, staying there, and you prevent that transition. But they're little bits for the video room with the lads. So, like I say, I thought we deserved at least a point, if not all 3. But when you're 3-1 down, you'll take a point, that's for sure.
Speaking specifically on Charles Vernon, he's a player that, as you know, struggled with his injuries. That's his first goal in over a year. You must be really pleased for him.
I didn't know that. Yeah, look, good player. We said he could be a difference. We know exactly what he'd be up against in Lewis, obviously, and we felt he'd be very good. And he scored a goal and he got us back in the game. So yes, it was important. Obviously, he played well. We've got to make sure that we look after him because of his history, if you like. But if he keeps performing like that, he'll. We want as many games as we can of him.
And Harvey Rogers obviously playing that more offensive role this season, being afforded to go forward, and it was a brilliant finish from him, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a great strike. I'm sure Greeny will take the mick out of him. That was like a quarter of the distance from where he scored here last year, but because they're good mates. But yeah, it was a great strike. and we talk about goals from all over the pitch. We, in Harvey's case, we don't just mean set pieces. We mean that kind of thing. We've been working with him about getting in. There was one in the first half where if he just keeps running, Darragh played a 1-2. If he kept on running, he actually gets ahead of their lad and he ends up running through on goal, and he didn't, and the lad just gets back. So it's just getting greater and more understanding, not just for Harvey, but for Ty, for Darragh, for all these players, Justin, all these sort of offensive players, Cam McJanet. So all these players, Jaden Sweeney, so that we have more goals from all over the pitch in open play as well as set pieces.
And you mentioned you rolled the dice for your substitutes, and they certainly paid off. Jamie Walker got an assist, and then Cameron Gardner got his assist for Jace Cabia's equaliser. So he must be super pleased with having such a strong bench like that. Yeah,
that's why we felt last year we had a decent 11, and we've tried to improve that, but we've also tried to improve sort of numbers 14 to 22 in our whole squad, and I suppose today's an example of that. And by the way, them lads who come on will be playing plenty of games and starting plenty of games, I'm sure. So that's what they're there for. That's what we want them to do. We want them to come off the bench and inject a bit of impetus and play exactly how we want to play, but do it a bit better than the lads who are coming off the pitch. Ev's got a bit of a knock. Greeny sort of ran himself into the ground, if you like, and we changed and went for it, bringing a left back off and putting a striker on the pitch, and it's paid off this week. It might not always do that, but I'd rather die trying, and if we lose then 4-1 or whatever, okay, but sometimes it pays off by getting 2 strikers on up the pitch and making a few more changes and getting a point.
And the lads didn't give up, and neither did the fans. How good was it to see sold out away in?
Yeah, excuse me. As I mentioned a second ago, the fans are brilliant, aren't they? We probably could have sold out the whole ground. That's how good they are. Certainly all them seats down there and the full side here, because they're back us home and away, and they're terrific. And I'm glad they've gone home probably a little bit happy with a point, because like I said, that's the least we deserved. And roll on to Tuesday in the cup, and then 2 games at BP next week, and hopefully we'll perform as like we did last time we were there, and be a bit more ruthless than we were in that first half.
Looking forward to it. Thank you, David.
Thank you.